So I wanted to talk about paper for my project because I thought it would be interesting to look at something that is used so frequently and still taken for granted. Most people know that paper comes from trees, right? But how is it made or what is actually done in this process to make paper, right? I mean, I think it's a little taken for granted. So I thought it'd be fun to go into this a little bit. So obviously most people know what paper looks like to the naked eye, pretty standard, but less commonly seen is a scanning electron microscopy image of it. Seen here, here. Side view I think is particularly interesting to give some dimension to the edge of a piece of paper. You can see here that this scale gives 100 micrometers. So paper is found in many different objects. You find it in books, you find it in notebooks for writing, you find it in legal documents, in cleaning products, tests, scientific tests, and money, of course. Who doesn't love money? And of course, two more perhaps fun ones, art and drugs. Some perhaps a little more productive than the other. But what actually is paper? And to answer this, I think you really need to go into what cellulose is. But first, let's talk about what paper is. You have usually moistened cellulose pulp fibers, which are dried into flexible sheets, and then they're compressed into paper as we know it. So, what's cellulose? It's because I don't think that it gives much intuition for what paper is without understanding cellulose. It's a big part of the cell wall in plant cells, so no surprise that it comes from trees then, right? It is basically a linear polymer of our good friend glucose. You can see here that it's just what's called glycosidic bond there. It's the most abundant organic polymer on Earth, and it has many of its own interesting properties and uses, but we don't go into that now. Paper was first discovered and made a long time ago, 2nd century BC is as far back as archaeological evidence goes. And by some accounts, it was discovered accidentally after hemp cloth was had extended contact with water and could then be pressed into a useful new material. And soon after found its way into society. And paper today is made usually in two different main ways: mechanical pulping for lower quality paper and chemical pulping for higher quality. Now, paper isn't all fun and games. It comes at a price, right? Deforestation is largely due to the paper industry. Around 35% of total trees cut down are used in paper industries. In the production of paper, dioxins are released, which can cause immune, developmental, hormonal, all sorts of terrible problems in humans. And it's also a huge source of waste and accounts for about 1/4 of all solid municipal waste in landfills. So huge problem there as well. And really, there are no convenient alternatives for the time being. Just because you can substitute the need for paper in note-taking with a stylus and an iPad doesn't necessarily mean you can blow your nose with a stylus and an iPad, right? It's many different uses, and it's going to be hard to be able to completely replace it. So most likely what it'll come down to is finding sustainable and still economic ways of production. So hopefully you learned something about paper here. I know I did, and hopefully had as much fun as I did with this.